1 week of regular season football remaining. Kenny C back here to break it all down for you. The Week 17 action back on the Kenny C Show. You'll want to hit the subscribe button if you don't do so already, because those who already subscribe, they know I bring the entertainment, I bring the energy, the facts, the opinions, and most of all, I want to hear from you, the people, in the comment section below. Week 17, Dunzo, and this episode is going to be about who needs it more. We still have divisions hanging in the balance. We still have 1 seeds up for grabs and a lot to talk about. And this first topic here that we're going to get into, the first order of business, the Green Bay Packers are locked in at the 7th seed, coming off of that abysmal loss to the Baltimore Ravens, in which their injury-riddled defense got gashed by Derrick Henry in a prime-time vintage performance, 216 rushing yards for the man, 4 touchdowns. We don't got to talk about that. But because of that, the Packers are locked into the 7th seed. The 2 and the 3 seeds are still up for grabs. Those will be decided based on the results from this coming Sunday between the Bears and the Eagles. If the Bears take care of business and they beat Detroit, even if the Eagles beat the Commanders, the Bears have the head-to-head, they will get the 2 seed, they will host Green Bay. But if the Bears lose to the Lions and Philly beats the Commanders, Philly will get the 2 seed and Green Bay will be traveling to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. My question for you guys, for Packers fans, for football fans, who do the Packers need to clinch up that 2 seed? I'll tell you my answer. Both games recently that the Packers played against both of these teams. The Eagles, they still had Micah Parsons. He's a huge difference. You can't even put into words the difference that he makes, when he's on the field versus out for the season. It's night and day for this Packers defense. But he was on the field at that time. That was a defensive stalemate. That came down to the Packers with a boneheaded play call to do a halfback draw up the middle on 4th down, 4th and 1, when Philly was obviously going to expect that. So they lost that game in narrow fashion. The other game was a catastrophic loss to the Bears, in which Green Bay should have swept Chicago this season. All that talk that Ben Johnson had before the season, it would be really nice to beat Matt LaFleur again twice a year. Well, you should have gotten swept if Romeo Doubs knows how to field an onside kick. You're on the hands team, and you don't know how to recover an onside kick. But I digress. So the Packers lost that game, but they coached circles. Matt LaFleur and Jeff Hafley coached circles around Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson. That whole game, they were dominating. They were up by 10 with 3:10 to go. The game should have been put away, put it on ice, and preserve it for another day. The Packers should have had a clean sweep. So why am I saying that? Why am I bringing that up? It's not because I'm still salty about the loss. It's not because I'm still trying to cope, as all you Bears fans like to say, because you guys hit my comment section. You bombarded my comment section with the short form content. You guys want to go check that out. All you guys who are watching right now will want to go check out that video and the comment section on Instagram, on TikTok. TikTok's at The Kenny C Show. Instagram is KennyC_radio. Go check it out, because these Bears fans were rattled. The Packers, because they should have had the clean sweep, and because of how well I think they played Chicago, tightly contested game in both games. Green Bay was running away with it in the second game more so than the first. But the second game was without Micah Parsons. I would rather play the Bears. That long-winded whole soliloquy, all of that to say, I would rather play Chicago. Philadelphia, I think the Packers still match up well, but if you cannot get pressure on Jalen Hurts, that's going to be a problem. Now, the Eagles' passing attack, it's been in question for the entire season. We don't even know still what the Philadelphia Eagles' offensive identity is. They got a win against the Buffalo Bills by the skin on their teeth because Josh Allen couldn't complete the 2-point conversion at the very end of the game. But the Eagles' offense is still very much in question. Their defense is not. Jalen Carter, I do not want to go up against that man, especially with the Packers, who have an offensive line that is missing Elgton Jenkins for the entire year and has missed Zach Tom because of a knee injury. Got to have Zach Tom back, because this offensive line has struggled at times. They've largely held it down, I'd say, in wake of losing Zach Tom for a couple of games here and there. But going up against Jalen Carter and company doesn't bode well. And Jordan Love, will hopefully be back. But who would I rather play? I'd rather play Chicago because you play them twice. You play them twice a year, every single year, obviously. And you played them last year, so you know this team. You are familiar with this team. If you are the Packers coaching staff, you should have swept this team. So I like my chances for the Packers, even with even more injuries mounting up. Losing depth guys like Kamal Hayden or Kamal Haddon. Losing Christian Welch, their linebacker and special teamer. Losing Jordan Riley, their depth D lineman. This Packers team is deprived of talent because of injury. And Rashawn Gary, they got to put up the "Have you seen this man" poster. They got to put it up on milk cartons everywhere across the country because he has not had a sack since week 8. That is a gigantic problem. And this Packers team, because of the injury bug, I don't see them going specifically deep in this playoff run. I think they can beat Chicago. Let's move on though, because I feel like I've beat the horse dead. And by the way, I hope you took a glance at the playoff picture when we first started this thing of what the matchups would be right now if the playoffs were to start today. Take a look at it again here in the AFC and in the NFC. Got some really good matchups. Seattle and Denver would have the 1 seed right now. They'd have the home field advantage through the entire playoffs. Houston and Pittsburgh, the Bolts and Jacksonville, which would be a really good game. And the 7 versus 2 seed matchups, Buffalo, New England, and Green Bay, Chicago, those feed families right there. Then you'd have San Fran against Carolina and the Rams against Philly as it's presently constituted. But a lot of this can change within a week, and that's why we got to get into the NFC 1 seed. Who needs the NFC 1 seed more? The San Francisco 49ers or the Seattle Seahawks? I'm not going to touch the AFC 1 seed in this video specifically because, listen to this, Jacksonville, when it's all said and done, or right now rather, on the road to when it's all said and done, they could be the 1, the 2, the 3, or the 5, 6, 7. The only seed that they cannot be is the 4 seed. So that's just oodles of confusion there because that just gets all muddy. It depends on what the Texans do against, I believe, the Colts, and then it depends on what Jacksonville does against the Titans. The 1 seed is pretty clear-cut in terms of Denver. If they win, they're in terms of the 1 seed. If they lose and the Patriots beat the Dolphins, then the Patriots get the 1 seed. But after that, with Jacksonville and all the different scenarios, we're just going to steer clear for right now. We're going to talk about this NFC 1 seed here. Saturday at 8 o'clock, the biggest game of the season. If you are a 49ers faithful fan, or if you are number 12, if you are a part of the Seattle Seahawks and their fan base, this game is huge. 8 o'clock in Santa Clara, in San Francisco, with the 1 seed hanging in the balance. If Seattle takes care of business and beats San Francisco, the 1 seed is theirs. But things get interesting if Seattle loses to San Fran. If San Fran can get a W, they will be the 1 seed all the way through with home field, including the Super Bowl in Santa Clara, which I believe, correct me if I'm mistaken in the comment section, we have not seen since the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay with Brady under center. But who needs to win it more? Who needs the 1 seed more? I mean, I'm going to say San Francisco, because listen to this. If San Francisco loses to Seattle here, a loss could drop them all the way to the 6th seed, where they would then have to play either Philly or Chicago, as opposed to getting a bye and sitting pretty through the first week of football playoffs. Because the Rams get the 5 seed with a San Francisco loss and a win over Arizona. Arizona's on an 8-game losing streak. The Rams just a couple weeks ago absolutely trounced the Cardinals. I don't expect anything different. So if all of that goes as planned and the Rams do what they need to do, and I know they haven't looked good in their last 2, coming off of a really bad loss against the Falcons team who's gotten hot in the back end, but still no excuse for Stafford the MVP, who threw 3 interceptions in that Monday night game. That was brutal. And before that, 30-16 comeback by Sam Darnold and company. The Rams don't look particularly good right now, but can they beat the Cardinals? Absolutely. So if they do that, San Fran with a loss can fall all the way to the 6th seed and have to go on the road and play Philadelphia or Chicago. Whereas with Seattle, if they don't get the 1 seed, they are guaranteed the 5, and they will play either Carolina or Tampa Bay. That is pretty extreme if you ask me. Because for Seattle, even if you don't get the 1 seed, you play Carolina, who's been win-loss, 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 or you play the Buccaneers, who I believe have lost 7 of the last 8. We'll get into that a little bit later. But the Buccaneers are playing some horrible football right now. So it's a win-win, for in my opinion, if you're Seattle. If you're the 49ers, you need to win this game on Saturday. And San Fran did get the W over Seattle in September, but that was way back in September when 49ers still had Nick Bosa and Fred Warner on that defense, and also George Kittle didn't have a bummed ankle at that time. Now things get interesting for San Francisco because their defense, as we saw in that game against the Bears, hell of a game, by the way, Bears fans. That Sunday Night Football game was insane. What was that Sunday Night Football game missing? Defense. Severely lacking defense. The 49ers defense, minimal pass rush. Bryce Huff is about the only guy that can try to get after the quarterback. D. Winters has had to step up at the linebacker position. Their cornerbacks, Deommodore Lenoir, they did not look good in the game against Chicago. Let's put it that way. They struggled against the Chicago Bears. And when you go up against Sam Darnold and seeing what Zach Charbonnet has been able to do, and Kenneth Walker, and then JSN, and you throw in Barner in there, it's not going to be an easy game this coming Saturday for San Francisco. Defense-wise, I'm taking Seattle all day. I mean, Nick Emmanwori alone, Emmanwori has played outstanding for this Seattle defense. They fly around the field. Nwosu and them boys can really get after it. They got a lot of talent, both in the D-line, at the linebacker positions, in the secondary. This is a Seattle defense that can do some serious damage. So give me Seattle to take the 1 seed, host at Lumen Field throughout the entirety of the playoffs, and beat San Francisco on Saturday after San Francisco had a shootout loss that came down to the final play of the game. I just don't think defensively, with the injuries mounting, they're saying Fred Warner could be back in the NFC Championship game. If they can even get there, it's going to be a long, hard road with the way that San Fran's defense has been playing. And that's also why I gave the Packers the edge in saying that the Packers should want to play Chicago because of how bad their defense has been. 28th in yards per game allowed, 22nd in points per game allowed, and 28th, again, in rushing yards per game allowed. That's for Chicago. That's their ranks. Both of these defenses, San Francisco and Chicago, have struggled throughout the season, and for the 49ers specifically with the key injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Give me Sam Darnold. Just had that comeback win against the Rams. Give me him to take care of business. Let's move on. The aforementioned NFC South. Things get interesting here. Division title is on the line for the Buccaneers and for the Panthers. But here's the enticing factor about this. This matchup is on Saturday at 4:30. The Buccaneers are playing host to the Panthers in this game. The Buccaneers have lost 7 out of their last 8 games. Not looking good. Carolina, they have not won back-to-back games since October. But the thing about this game is even if the Buccaneers beat Carolina in this head-to-head and get revenge for a couple weeks ago, if the Falcons win on Sunday, then the Buccaneers are out and the Carolina Panthers by default will win the division and get a playoff berth. So if I'm a Buccaneers fan, I'm also a Falcons fan, irrespective of them being my rival come Sunday. But for the Buccaneers in this game, who needs it more, the Panthers or the Bucs? Dave Canales doing an excellent job in his early stages with this Carolina team with a young quarterback in Bryce Young. They've made immense strides from last year to this year as a team, now sitting at 8-8. And when you look at what the Buccaneers have done, well, they started off 6-2, and now they've worked their way all the way down into a jiffy here, losing 7 out of their last 8. Baker Mayfield not playing good football by any stretch of the imagination. They had that 20-17 loss to the Dolphins. Baker gets strip sacked. McLaughlin ends up missing a field goal. They score a little too late at the end, can't recover the onside, and the Dolphins come away with a big win. A Dolphins team that should not have won that game at all. For Carolina, they haven't made the playoffs since 2017. The last time they made the playoffs, Cam Newton was the quarterback, and they lost to the Saints in the wild card. The Buccaneers, however, since 2022 when Todd Bowles took over, they have made the playoffs. Last year, they weren't able to pull it off. But when you ask me who needs it most, who needs to make this playoffs the most and win this division, I'm going to go with the Buccaneers because they started off 6-2. Things looked great. Baker Mayfield was an MVP candidate. For the Panthers, they got plenty of time to grow with what they have as an organization right now. For the Buccaneers, Todd Bowles, although he's only been the coach for their last 3 years, he could start to be on the hot seat depending on what happens in the next coming seasons. But this year, I think the seat can get at least lukewarm if they find a way to not make the playoffs after starting the year so good, starting at 6-2. Baker Mayfield playing out of his mind. They lost weapons along the way, but then even when they got these weapons back in their offense, Ibuka was back to health, McMillan was back, Godwin, Bucky Irving, things still have not looked good whatsoever. No cohesion. Give me the Panthers in this game to beat the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay and get into the playoffs without the help of the Atlanta Falcons. Let's move along to the AFC North. This division comes down to a final Sunday night football game at 8:20 in brick cold Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with the Steelers playing host to the Baltimore Ravens. By the way, the Carolina Panthers, I believe, are 9-7. I think I said they were 8-8. I flipped them. I believe, the Bucs are 8-8 right now? But getting into the Steelers-Ravens matchup. The Ravens coming off of a big statement win with Huntley under center against the Packers, Todd Monken finally leaning on Derrick Henry. Meanwhile, the Steelers coming down to a loss against the Cleveland Browns. They fall to the Browns. End of the game. Rodgers tries to heave one up to MVS. Little fade to the end zone. That does not go as planned. Denzel Ward with great coverage. That ball is incomplete, and the Steelers lose that game on 4th and goal to the Cleveland Browns. The offensive line focused so heavily on not letting Myles Garrett get the sack record against Aaron Rodgers that in totality, the Steelers played around with their food for far too long and couldn't get it done. You didn't have Darnell Washington, who's been a primary target for Aaron Rodgers. Even with DK on the field, you didn't have DK because of the suspension. You will also not have DK in this game, but who needs to win this game most and get into the playoffs? You got a lot on the line here. John Harbaugh has been with the Baltimore Ravens since 2008. The last time the Ravens won a Super Bowl was 2012. They're coming off of last year's loss against Buffalo, but at least last year they made the playoffs, and they were able to get a win the year prior against the Steelers in the playoffs. The Steelers' last playoff win came against the Kansas City Chiefs in 2017. That was their last playoff win. Mike Tomlin, 18 seasons. This is his 18th year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. 2007, he became their coach. A lot is on the line here. You have a lot of Steeler fans calling for Mike Tomlin's head. I would be calling for Arthur Smith's head more, and probably the front office with Khan, not calling for Khan's job, because I think he's done largely a pretty damn good job with this team. But to not get any real bona fide pass catchers outside of DK has been an issue for Aaron Rodgers. But if we're talking about who needs it more, I'm going with the Steelers because I think Tomlin's on the hot seat. You haven't won a playoff game in 8 years? That's a problem. That is a problem. You need to win this game against Baltimore and get in. And also hanging in the balance of why I think the Steelers need this over the Ravens is because Aaron Rodgers is 42 years old. When Aaron Rodgers talked to John Sutcliffe Monday night in that win over the Dolphins, Sutcliffe asked him in Spanish, "Is this the last one? Is this your last Monday Night Football game?" And Rodgers pretty much said, I don't know, we'll see. So Raj could end up retiring after this year. Depending on what happens, I feel like if they miss the playoffs, Raj might come back, but then it's going to be a matter of, do the Steelers want him back? And that's going to be a whole thing that we'll have to see what transpires in the offseason. But who needs it more? I think the Steelers, because of Tomlin being on the hot seat, the fact that they haven't won a playoff game since 2017, and I think also for Aaron Rodgers, whose career hangs in the balance of maybe he's going to retire or maybe he'll come back. But no DK Metcalf in this game, is huge, and if the Ravens can get Lamar Jackson back from that back contusion, that kind of changes the game. If they lean on Derrick Henry against the Steelers defense, who's got a stout defensive line, irrespective of TJ Watt being on it, the Steelers have the talent. I think this is going to be a classic, a game for the ages between these two teams. But Aaron Rodgers without DK is so tough because you look at Scotty Miller, MVS, and Adam Thielen. If this was 2020, the Steelers would have a pretty damn good receiving core. But these are guys that are past their primes, and this is a Steelers offense that is predicated on, we need to feed Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell, and for Rodgers, it's, where are my tight ends? He's looking for Jonnu, he's looking for Freiermuth, he's usually looking for Darnell Washington, who with the broken arm, it's probably highly unlikely that he plays in this game. This is going to be a tough game, and I don't want to bet against Aaron Rodgers, and I love the guy, and I root for the guy still. I think Lamar Jackson, if he's back, just from a pure talent perspective offensively, I think that the Ravens can pull this game out if they lean on Derrick Henry in the cold like they did against the Green Bay Packers, because they also have Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman and Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. And with Lamar back, even if he's coming back a little banged up, I think they have a slight edge over Aaron Rodgers, who's missing his top guy in DK Metcalf, who's missing probably his arguably top guy and second best guy or second favorite in Darnell Washington. This is going to be a tough one for the Steelers to pull out. Give me the Ravens to win the division and to make the playoffs, and give me your comments in the comment section below. Week 17 in the books. We're going on to Week 18, so stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button.